Some pieces of wood that were consistent throughout the tree, directly related to the core pruning that had taken place years ago. This one you guys can actually, at least if you can pass that around. It was easier when I wasn't dressed up. And then this one I'll show you from here, because it's so visible. This is where the actual topping cut took place. This was a side limb actually, so it'd be a heading cut. And the picture of this limb is in your packet. These were all live limbs growing off this, so it shows that even though this was all healthy, it just dried out today on the freeway. So it really shows that the tree can look, and have total vigor and look really good, but still this could be what's going on. And as this limb develops, you can see the wood is decaying below it. Eventually we're going to have a broken limb. And a couple other things I saw that is in your photos is bleeding. I believe from the last few, the warm weather we had about a week ago, bleeding has now started on some of the upper structure of the tree, and that's generally related to heart rot. I did drill into the tree at the height of the cable that's in the tree, 17 feet high, and the central trunk that was cabled, the cable lag had pulled out due to the decay in the wood. You hit it with the mallet, and you could hear you could just tell that it wasn't sound wood. You hit a piece of sound wood, and you could really tell the difference. So I drilled in at that point, and we had about an inch of good tissue, and then the remaining 14 inches were decayed. So it was, pretty much what you see right there with that funky wood. I drilled again about 2 feet below that, and we had 3 inches of good wood and still had the decay in. So the decay has moved down from the top at probably about 10, 12 feet. That decay has traveled down through the center of the tree. So it's a species problem. If it was a sycamore tree, we just lop the rest of the limbs off and let them grow out because they don't decay. Whereas a maple is much like a willow or like a poplar tree, and they'll decay all the way down, eventually to the ground. So eventually the tree's got to go, whether it's now or later, it has to go. And then the side limbs were, when you looked from above, because I did climb the tree, when you look from above, you could see the sunburn scars and such on top of the limbs, which will also cause decay throughout that limb. So those limbs would have to be cut way back, and it would just be accelerating the problem we have now. So, and then the second tree I did not do a drill test on, but it's symptomatic. It's got the same symptoms. So I believe we should start over. So if you have any questions.
Kevin, no science here, but roughly would it last another decade or less?
We'd have failures. Definitely, we may have failures of lateral limbs this year. We would have definitely would have failure within 10 years. I'm sure.
Thank you.
So I'm pretty confident of that.
Any other questions, staff?
Kevin, that's a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You get extra hazard duty.
Okay.
Duty.
It's good. I don't get in trees very often anymore, so it's kind of nice. So thank you.
Okay.
Want this little chunk back? I need it.
Well,
We're already saying about the office.
are there any further questions of staff? If not, members of the audience, applicant?
My name is Brad Garlinghouse, and we are the people building at 39 Laburnum. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I wanted to share two things about this that I think are relevant. One is when we first purchased the lot 18 months ago, one of the first things we did was hire an arborist to actually attempt to fertilize the tree, prune the tree in a more healthy manner. We installed irrigation to water the tree during the course, hoping that we could kind of revitalize these trees. We, during the course of this, have realized that that hasn't been successful, and felt like the sooner we get new healthy trees into the ground, that's better for everyone. The other thing I'll just mention briefly, the 3 letters you received from neighbors were done without solicitation from us. I think if you read them, you'll find, you know, overwhelming support from the neighbors. I frankly was amazed that they proactively did that without our request, and so I think it's indicative of they are not attractive trees, they are very unhealthy, and I think the neighborhood will benefit by having new and healthy trees planted.
It was ginkgo, you're planning to do ginkgos?
Yes, but there is a plan for some large oaks, some, you know, ginkgos were the replacement tree that was originally discussed, but there are some other plans in the actual landscaping of the project that include, I think, 48-inch box oak trees.
Yeah, we're taking 2 trees down and planting somewhere in the order of magnitude of a dozen. I don't know the exact number, we actually can plot the plans if you guys would like to see them, but you know, there's many more trees going in as opposed to coming out.
Only female ginkgos.
No,
Yes.
or we'll be back.
All right, any further questions of the applicant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments, questions?
The arborist for the project is here if you have any questions for him also. He could answer any questions.
If you would. My name's Robert Weatherill with Advanced Tree Care, and I wrote the original report for tree protection a year ago for these trees. We worked on those trees about a year ago to remove the deadwood, as Brad was saying. About 30% of the canopies were dead at that time, so we did take a lot of deadwood out. And in the process of removing that deadwood, looking down, there was just columns of decay throughout the whole tree, both trees. And we fertilized and produced a lot of new growth, but I think over the next 5 to 10 years, it's a downsize, and eventually it's going to be removable. So that's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Any questions?
What's the recommendation for replacement? Is it 224?
I think it's exhibit L4A.
Staff has recommended 2 24-inch box size trees or 1 36 for each tree removed, and then the applicant has given you what they plan to replant with.
This is this reference L4A.
Are there any further comments? If not, I'll rule the public hearing closed. Commissioners, what do you wish to do?
I'll make a motion to whack it.
All right, we have a motion that we whack them.
I got a question before you say whack. The plan we have shows 3 48-inch boxes, ginkgo, is that correct? That is correct. Okay, very good.
May we have a second to that?
Well, what was
Well, I was thinking about amending the
replacement?
tree permit with, yeah, amended to reflect exhibit L4A, which is what they have, rather than specifying what
Okay.
ours is.
Agreed.
And second to the amendment?
Second.
Okay. Motion has been amended. Is there any further discussion?
Now whack.
Now whacking. All right, all those in favor of whacking and substituting? Aye.
Never mind.
Motion passes.
You said we don't have a sense of humor.
Kevin, you may have started pressing, you may have to repeat the
Appeal, you have the right to appeal to the council within the next 10 days.
In writing, if you don't like those.
10 copies, but no, I don't think
Thank you.
Good job, Kevin.
Thank you.
very good. We have a item number 9, special structure permit. Staff, please.
The next item before you is a request for an increase in the maximum sidewall height for the main residence at 260 Oak Grove. The applicant is proposing a second-story addition to match the existing second-floor design and the floor plan of the house. The code allows a maximum allowable sidewall height of 22 feet. and the applicant is proposing an increase of 1 foot, 4 3/4 inches for a total sidewall height of 23 feet, 4 3/4 inches. As required by code, the house is able to meet an increased setback requirement of 10 feet for a total of a front and rear setback of 70 feet and a side setback of 60 feet. Staff did receive several inquiries regarding the specifics of the project, which were basically clarification just on what was proposed. And we did receive one public comment letter supporting the project after your packets were already distributed, and that was left at your chairs this evening. Staff is supportive of the request for the height exception, as the overall height of the home will be less than what is allowed by right, meaning the entire height of the home will be less than 30 feet in height. It is just that one portion of the sidewall that is exceeding what is allowed by right in the code. We are also supportive of the request because of the home's ability to meet the increased setbacks as well as the existing mature vegetation on site. I'm available to answer any questions, and the architect is here as well with some pictures, I believe. Thank you.
Any questions of staff?
Yeah, but, no, not of staff, sorry, but of the architect.
Okay. Go ahead. Thank you. We'll have public comments, anybody from the audience? I assume we have,
All right. If I put this here, can you see it?
No.
Okay, why don't I put it up on the pass around?
okay.
I thought it might be helpful.
Why don't you identify yourself first?
I'm sorry, I'm Judith Mattingly from Mattingly Thaler Architecture. And I brought some photos of the site to sort of show the aerial view of the property so you can get a sense of where the addition will be, and a pretty picture of the addition. One thing I also wanted to do, I think there were a couple of questions about, why exactly we needed the 1 foot, 4 inches. And so what I wanted to actually try to do was kind of walk through the logic that got us there, except I need to do it with the tiniest elevations in your package. That basically, the strategy is starting on the interior courtyard of the house. There's an existing second floor, partial second floor that has a balcony on the courtyard. We wanted to match that balcony with the new addition. Then we wanted to also maintain the roof slope at the same angle. We wanted consistency with the existing house. Then we are putting on an addition that's much larger than the existing second story because of the programmatic requirements. To try to control the mass of this addition, we are, with the library proper, making it the same width as the existing living room. So, and inside this library, we want a nice symmetrical open beam ceiling, also like the existing living room in the house. So the bay size, getting the ridge in the middle of the library itself, kind of had us continue the roof up to the ridge, and then we wanted the centering of that library mass to be the same as the living room. And it's sort of the geometry of doing this got us ending up on that driveway side with a wall that's 16 inches higher than the 22. Though the bottom of the eave is at 22, the plate height, which is your requirement, is higher. So does that make sense?
Yep.
Is that?
Mm-hmm.
And the photos are more to show the character and quality of the house and sort of, what we were trying to match.
Excuse me. The spring point for the slope of the roof, could that be lowered 16 inches?
Well, the spring point is the balcony on the courtyard side.
Yeah, I see that, but I keep thinking, all right, you don't go out on the balcony very much, so why do you have a balcony there? Couldn't you make conformance to our zoning code by either taking the roof, because that's what's pushing you up, is the roof over the balcony, therefore the rest goes up. Just take the roof off, let it be an open balcony.
No.
No, you
Architecturally, I think that,
can't- you can't
not to
do
be
that.
too brusque, but
I'm
yes.
an ex-architect, okay? Beware. She's a real one.
Then you must understand.
No,
No.
MIT is,
okay.
okay?
Yeah, I don't buy it, I'm sorry.
All right. Any other questions? No?
Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any other comments? I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Want me to start?
Yes.
I visited the property on Tuesday. I've been by that corner many, many times. Certainly, the addition that they're asking for won't be seen easily from the street. And so I would approve the special structures permit.
I did not visit the site, although I have been by it several times. I think it's a unique and lovely property, and I commend you on trying to do an addition that blends well and isn't seen. I understand the reasons behind it. I feel, you know, the code has provisions for increasing sidewall height, while increasing setbacks, and provisions have been met, and it's not visible, so I have no problem with this.
I visited the site also. I think it could be solved architecturally, and therefore would not approve the request.
I would approve the request. Therefore, I would ask for a motion.
I move the planning commission approve the special structures permitted at 260 Oak Grove Avenue. Not Lane, Avenue.
That's just a motion, I'm sure I'll fix it.
Oak Grove Avenue.
Okay, we'll fix it. That's where you can continue, sorry.
Based on the findings and reasons enumerated in the staff report and subject to the conditions listed in the draft special structures permit to allow the sidewall height exceptions.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
No?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-1.
Well done, it's a great house.
Item number 10 on our agenda is next, the lot line redesignation of 70 Elena.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting a lot line redesignation at 70 Elena. This is a flag lot. Give me a second here. The applicant proposes to construct a new single-family residence with a basement, detached garage, pool, and as well as some other improvements to the property. When we analyze this site, it appears that the east property line, as shown on your exhibit, is currently considered the front property line, and the applicant is requesting that the north property line be considered the front property line. And this is to allow the construction of detached accessory structures in what's currently considered the front property line. The setbacks would remain. The side setbacks are currently 50. They would continue to be 50. As you know, they would shift to different sides. And then the front setbacks would continue to be front and rear 60 feet. This doesn't allow for a larger home, as you're aware. Just allows them to reorient the house in kind of a more square than a long fashion. And it also allows them to take advantage of the other side of the property for the construction of detached accessory structures. The architect is here this evening, does have a presentation for you, and I also want to make sure it's mentioned into the record that we did receive a public comment. I believe I emailed it out to all the commissioners, an extra copy if you need one, from a concerned neighbor at 84 Elena Avenue. They're concerned about the project, and I believe they are requesting that the item be continued so they would have some more time to work with the adjacent property owner and their designer. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions as well. The architect is here.
I'm sorry, who's asking continuance?
The adjacent neighbor, the letter from 84 Elena.
That's the neighbor that is on the proposed, abuts the proposed rear yard.
They would be in, well, so they're also on the flag lot.
Yeah, they're also a flag, and I would assume they would abut rear yard to maybe their side yard.
It would be the newly designated rear yard,
Yeah.
correct, which is currently designated as the side yard. Yes, you are. And I have a parcel map I just wrote on which site is 84 Elena, and then the subject site's highlighted, so I'll pass that on as well.
Can I ask a question of council?
Yeah.
That's okay. You know, we do these lot line redesignations quite frequently, and it seems to me theoretically the different property lines are all equivalent, you know, I mean, they're set standards and you get what you get. Is the objection of a neighbor on one side a legitimate reason to deny a lot line? I mean, redesignation.
Within your discretion.
Would be within our, okay.
Yeah, and I think I was a little surprised, I mean, I don't know if the property owner's here from 84 Elena may be able to speak.
He's not here, but he asked me to attend.
Okay. I kind of understand maybe more the other property owner having concern because it places accessory structures in the yard that's currently not allowed, but where the 84 Elena neighbor butts, you could have accessory structures there under the current designation. So I think they just wanted more time to maybe work with the neighboring property owner to find out what the plans are, and a representative's here so you can ask maybe them some more questions.
Any further questions of staff?
Well, I've got one, I guess, a potential one. I visited the site on Tuesday and looked at what was going on and where it is. One of the things on one of the sheet A 1.2 points out on proposed new construction that they're proposing a lap pool, which would require the removal, and while it's not part of this one here, maybe the orientation of the house would cause that to happen, and that is a huge, beautiful oak tree, and I would have some major problems with that to start with, even though it's not part of this application. So if there's a possibility of working with the applicant and the neighbors on this whole subject, and that tree included, it might be worthwhile.
And I think that would be something the architect could respond. If this lot line redesignation were not approved, would the pool shift to another location? I think is a good question for the architect.
It shows the 27-inch diameter tree at the end of the lap pool. I assume there are no trees to be cut down at this point, and if they do ask for it, these are heritage trees that would require our approval.
Correct. There's no heritage trees that are shown in the main building area that would change as a part of this application. None are before you tonight. And there's a few entitlements that if they continue with this conceptual plan, and it's, I think we've talked about this before, it's a little chicken and egg, right? They do a conceptual plan, but they don't know if they have the authority to go off that property line, so they haven't formalized their plans yet. But based on this conceptual level plan, they would also need to come back to you for a special structure permit to locate the garage at that location. They would need to modify the carport where it's shown that dashed area, as well as the tree removal associated with the lap pool.
Oh, so there's more to it than just...
It's
A lot.
So this is just the first step.
correct.
Why are we not seeing the final product?
Well, I advised the applicant that we would prefer to see the complete application that had all those entitlements and more formalized plans. Their concern was, and I believe their client's concern was going down with that level of design detail and further refinement of the plans, not knowing if they can use this as the front property line. And we have done that in the past. We've allowed people to present conceptual plans, and then when they come in with the further design refinements, we would need to come back to you. So I did certainly give them that advice, though.
Okay. At this point, the applicant just shows, I guess, what he is thinking of, but what he plans would require further approvals
Correct.
of the town. Any further questions? Commission? If not, I'll open that up to the public.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Wilson. I'm with Olson Kundig Architects from Seattle. And I'd like to thank the Deputy Planner for fielding a number of those questions to clarify the application. Her point was correct that there are a number of items that we will eventually like you to consider, but we're moving in an incremental fashion to be considerate of the owner's time and fees and budget. So today I wanted to focus on the application to redesignate the front yard. The focus of the application, it has more to do with the location of the garage on the property as an accessory building. And primarily where that's located on the site. And its relationship to existing heritage trees on the site. I'm prepared to present some other exhibits if the commission needs further elaboration on some of the differences between the proposed setback configuration and the existing setback configuration. In terms of the letter that was received by the neighbor on Friday the 20th, if it's helpful, I can clarify some of the points that are raised there, the major concerns. I believe there are 4 or 5, and I'm prepared to elaborate on those point by point if that's helpful.
Please do.
If it's okay, I'm going to skip around on the letter a little bit. I'll go in order, but I won't read the entire letter to you. The first concern by the property owner to the south, which is 84 Elena, is potential pool equipment at the southeast corner of the location and a proposed pool house and sound from that equipment. And that particular pool house is a glorified changing room. It's a bathroom with an indoor shower, an outdoor shower, and some storage capacity for chairs and cushions and other types of things you'd use in a pool. And it is currently not planned to house any pools, pumps, or other equipment necessary to facilitate reflecting pools or water features. That equipment would be located either in a garage much further from the property to the south, or ideally in the basement of the proposed new structure.
You're saying in a garage or the garage?
The garage that's shown, correct. There's a point here in the letter that mentions that the proposed pool house would be located to the on the closest part of that property to that house, and in particular to several bedrooms. It appeared to me from the aerial view that the wing of the house is parallel to the property line to the south between the two properties, and that under even the existing front yard designation, a pool house or other accessory structures could be located along that house. So it's close is kind of a relative term. It's kind of a sliding scale, I guess. The next point says, we are concerned that noise from the pool house, and pool equipment will impair enjoyment of our property, and they go on to express some other concerns in that spirit. It appeared from a survey of the neighboring properties that 84 Elena is surrounded by multiple other pools. The pool house, as I mentioned before, won't house any equipment. And so concerns about noise, I believe, would be mitigated by the existing code in the town requiring limitations on decibel levels and sound transmission. Also, I noticed that there's a code requirement to limit the operation of pool equipment during certain hours and so on, and of course our owners of 70 Elena would comply with those. There was some speculation about sound bouncing off the back of the proposed house, and I think that was kind of speculative. It's hard to say without some sort of scientific investigation whether or not sound would reflect onto another property off of a structure. And their final point has to do with trees, and it's my understanding, I have a loose grasp of acoustic engineering, but I don't think trees do very much at all at reducing sound transmission between properties unless you're talking about 100 feet of dense trees and dense canopy. And I did do a little bit of research of that online just to confirm my suspicions. I wouldn't present that notion to you without having some sort of information to back that up. So again, if you needed to see additional graphics to compare the two possible configurations, I'm happy to supply that. But at this point, I'll be happy to answer any more questions you might have.
Two possible configurations of what?
Where an accessory pool house structure and swimming pool might be located based on the proposed front yard location and the existing front yard location. From a brief analysis, it appears to be a wash, and the request is based more on the location of the garage.
I would be more able to analyze this if you gave me something that also gave me an indication of how this outline of the house and its garage would look if it were still keeping the lot line designation as it is. I can't take this and imagine, you know, flipping it 90 degrees very easily.
I have a master plan to that effect. But it kind of relates, the request is based more on relating how the owners would like to use their property and the location of the garage.
Well, I know that, but we have more interest here than the owners. That's your interest.
I'll just give you.
Thank you.
Sure. And I have a big one because I noticed the text on this is pretty small. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You need to roll it out and speak to, these are magnets, like if you need to point to this. Thank you.
If the existing front,
Yeah, this would be the
why that'd be front here.
I mean, I'm not convinced. Let me tell you, you put the garage in the proposed one maybe 15 feet from the house. You put the garage a lot further in this one, which looks like a little off. And you can yank that pool further in. This is not convincing.
I'm sorry, put the garage where?
Look, on this one, or this one in
Right.
the case, the garage is slammed up against the house. On this one, the garage is way over here in the corner and turned in another direction. This is not a comparative to me.
No, to move the garage closer to the house, it would impact that one Heritage Street potentially.
Okay, we're gonna lose one with the pool. So it's one for
Well, we're
one.
not there yet.
Yeah, I think that the pool can easily be redesigned or edited. The desired layout of the home, location of the garage, and associated programmatic requirements and other items that the client has requested would have a greater impact to keep it. It has to do with kind of how they want to use their property. That's the basis of the request.
I understand.
And as you can see, if I were to walk you through briefly the existing and proposed, the existing configuration shows that the proposed pool house and swimming pool could essentially be located in the same location in relationship to the proposed. So the neighbors' concerns in terms of sound and transmission and things are somewhat of a wash. The garage, however, in the existing configuration would need to be located somewhere on the left-hand side or west edge of the property. And you could see that the garage location could end up in a number of different spots because the allowable, potentially allowable space to build a accessory structure is quite large in the existing configuration. But it does get into some heritage trees on the northwest corner of the property, which would be a concern for us.
Pull the garage closer.
And then on the proposed, I believe you can see that the garage is quite obviously in another location.
Thank you for providing the context on these drawings. I appreciate seeing the orientation of the.
I think some of those houses might be out of scale.
It's hard on
Yeah.
floating in space one.
Thank you. Thanks to Google.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, are there any further questions? Pull to the left and then pull to the right, I mean. All right, the public hearing, or do you wish to?
I just have a few comments.
Go ahead.
My name's Greg Gomez. Mr. Salisbury and his wife asked me to appear tonight on his behalf. He's traveling, so he couldn't attend tonight. I did have one question I'm curious about in terms of these initial plans that aren't yet finalized. When were those originally drafted? How long have those plans been in existence?
The plans to proceed through the schematic design phase, the specific plans in the commissioner's hand, those were done days prior to the meeting after we received the letter.
No, but the initial plans to change the boundary, to change the setbacks, those have been in work for a while, I assume?
They're dated March 30th.
Yeah, the application went in time for this hearing.
And this is dated 25th of April.
Yeah, well, the drawing, yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm just curious when they kind of came up with this idea of asking for the setback changes.
Yeah.
Simply because Mr. Salisbury